In my search for material for my videos, I have sometimes stumbled upon very interesting things that later, upon examination, turned out to be fakes. Here I have collected the most unusual, arousing imagination photos, which turned out to be hoaxes, but which many people still believe to be true. I will start with perhaps the wildest story I found on the internet, namely the story that in some Chinese restaurants you can order unusual dishes that are made from babies and human embryos. And, of course, this legend was backed up with pictures of a Chinese man defiantly devouring a baby on camera. Just in case, I blacked out these pictures so that YouTube wouldn't block the video. You can easily find them on search engines, and they look really horrifying. Naturally, the whole internet was abuzz with indignation, and people were shocked by the Chinese cannibalism. But everything turned out to be much more prosaic. The photos were indeed called eating people, but it turned out to be just another performance by the controversial Chinese author Zhu Yu. He roasted a duck, shaped it like a baby's body, attached an artificial head to it, and ate his performance on camera. He created it especially for an art exhibition in Shanghai back in 2000, and the exhibition has been safely forgotten. But the photos, which surfaced on the internet many years later, made a lot of noise and became the cause of this scary legend. Naturally, many famous photo hoaxes were nothing more than photoshopped photos. For example, a photo of a military man fleeing from a shark attacking him is quite popular on the web. The shark is in fact real, except that in the original picture it is not attacking anyone. This is the famous shot that was called the Tourist of Death. Legend has it that the FBI found the camera after the September 11th attacks, which contained this photo. The photo traveled around the world, but turned out to be a hoax and spawned many photo jabs. And this is the classic theme of an unusual scary creature from the underwater depths, which was allegedly thrown ashore. But as with all such cases, this creature turned out to be just another photoshopped alteration. And there are plenty more photoshopped creatures like this on the internet. And apparently, the author of the next very famous fake was inspired by such works. In 2010, images from the Cassiopeia space probe were allegedly leaked to the internet. Mysterious and unexplored, the dark side of the moon, the photo showed a certain swastika-shaped structure in the Scherzinger crater and near the south polar region of the moon. This photo immediately attracted the attention of conspiracy theory proponents, who announced that they had finally obtained documentary evidence that the Nazis had mastered the moon as early as 1945. Moreover, NASA also added fuel to the fire and made an official refutation of the image. A NASA representative said that the alleged observations were due to interference from a weather balloon between the satellite and Cassiopeia, and that the signal took the form of a swastika is just a coincidence. And not surprisingly, after such a statement, enthusiasts made even more noise. In fact, it turned out to be very trivial. In January of the 10th year, the marketing director of the Aran Sky TV project made this sensational picture of the moon, a strange swastika-shaped building with a dome in the center, in 15 minutes using a graphic editor. Then he posted it on one of the websites of those very conspiracy theories enthusiasts and attributed the legend that the picture came from a leak from NASA and was taken by the Cassiopeia probe mission near the south pole of the moon. After the image went viral on the internet in just 1 week, Yarma realized that he had overreacted and made a confessional statement. But, as is usually the case in such cases, this confession did not interest anyone, and the picture is still walking around the internet, and many believe that it is real. Especially popular on the internet were pictures with ghosts. Moreover, many of the pictures were taken in the 19th or early 20th century. And strangely enough, most of them are not fake. That's what makes photographs so intriguing. The explanation is simple. With the invention of photography, photographers began to invent new entertainment for the public. Someone by gluing shots created twins in the picture, someone beheaded people, but someone created ghosts in the picture. For this, a fairly simple double exposure effect was used. Creating such a photograph for an experienced person was not something difficult. The technique was a photographic effect of superimposing one photograph on another, and this technique began to be used by unscrupulous photographers. And also very popular in those years were fortune tellers, psychics, and con artists of all stripes. Trustful people were paying a lot of money to such photographers to have their pictures taken, for example, with a recently deceased relative. Adventurers somehow found a picture of a deceased relative of a client or similar to the deceased stranger, made a photo overlay, and took money from satisfied customers. And here, for example, the famous magician Harry Houdini decided to be photographed with the spirit of Abraham Lincoln. Well, this technique in particular explains the phenomenon of the very popular YouTube photo of Victor Goddard with his squadron. It allegedly flashed the face of the ghost belonging to no one Freddie Jackson, who died 2 days before this picture was taken. Yes, even nowadays there are a lot of fans of making fake photos with ghosts, and although it is often very difficult to accuse the creators of such photos of forgery, but this popular internet photo with a ghost in a Japanese forest is refuted by an earlier photo with the same girl. Apparently, the guys just decided not to bother. By the way, speaking of the topic of severed heads, they also like to present it in a mysterious way, like, I was looking at old photos of my ancestors, and there's something like this. And, of course, this is also where the myth of the Buckley family photo, which has been circulating on the internet, came from. The children allegedly cut off their mother's head and were photographed against it, but in fact this photo is nothing more than modern Photoshop. Clearly inspired by similar images from the past. Well, another wonderful phenomenon of the early 20th century is the advertisement of abundance for the poor. These postcards fairy tales were specially shot for potential settlers of unpopulated regions, and the amazing thing is that many people actually believed in it and moved to these regions. But of course, all the pictures of giant vegetables and giant rabbits and grasshoppers on the internet are from there. And finally, unlike many other pictures, this one, oddly enough, is real. There really are such creatures walking on the ground. In English it is called a camel spider. When they grow to that size, it looks really creepy. And the following are some very beautiful photos that were taken in 2014. Surprisingly, they're real. According to the initial verdict of social media users, the amateur photographer from Wales managed to shoot the most real series. But it turned out that the mystery of these magical creatures was solved back in 2009. It turned out that in those years in the UK began the invasion of giant moths from North Africa. If such a 5 centimeter long model is illuminated by a flash, then you get the fairy effect. But the subject of fairies stirred the British, and before that, in 2007, there were shocking images on the internet, which was filmed the corpse of a fairy, or rather, her mummy. And the accompanying description was that it was found in England. Allegedly, the mummy was accidentally stumbled upon by locals who wished to remain anonymous. The fairy was about 20 centimeters tall with well-preserved wings. And allegedly, forensic scientists confirmed that the mummy was genuine. No one was confused by the fact that the pictures appeared on April 1st, and the author of these pictures, artist Dan Baines, in 10 days already admitted that he was a professional manufacturer of such dolls and things for practical jokes and earns his living by it. Even the BBC reported that the doll was a fake to reassure the public. And the doll itself managed to sell for $500. But still many do not believe Dan Baines and believe that the government found the real fairy, and believe that the government took the mysterious find away from the artist and forced him to invent a new truth. But this was not the last strange corpse sold on the internet. Relatively recently, another item appeared on eBay auction that attracted a lot of people's attention. It was a mermaid. Her photos went to many websites, where they were seen by millions of visitors. The description to the photos said that this was the body of an unknown entity that was found on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. But it turned out to be much simpler. The author of the mermaid was the famous sculptor Juan Cabana, who among other things is engaged in modeling such monsters. He makes sculptures from the remains of fish, their bones and skin, which are actually found on the shore of the ocean. I think many of you have seen pictures of these unusual creatures on the internet. And then Cabana sells his unique work on eBay, and the rabid popularity of his sculptures online only adds to their value. If you liked the video, Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and write what you think about it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support is very important to me.